everybody, how are you? I'm Amy Leonard. I'm an English instructor at De Anza College, and I wanted to share with you my capstone project for my certificate in online teaching and design. Let's dive into my screen. I'm going to be showing off my Year 2 class and specifically focusing on the CVC OEI rubric section on accessibility. If you're not familiar with that section, it's the section that says instructors need to verify that the content they create or add in their courses is accessible to all students. This is something that's really near and dear to me because as a person who has a learning difference, I've often struggled sometimes with looking at classes and not being able to necessarily navigate them as clearly as possible. So as an instructor, I want to make sure that every one of my students, whether they have a learning disability or not, is going to be able to navigate my class to the best of their ability to be successful. The two sections I'm going to be focusing on and touching on in this particular capstone project is the D3 section on links and also mainly focusing on D7 on images. So we're going to head on over to my week 4 overview. Now for D7, to be in compliance, you want to make sure that you have all of the images have appropriate alternative text, either explaining an educational value or indicating the image is decorative. Now, what does that mean? What that means is you need to be able to check your images in your class. As a person who uses a lot of images to make sure I'm engaging my students, I want to make sure that each one of these has a purpose. So some of my images are going to have purpose of being a banner. That's going to help the student understand the navigation of the page. Or some of my images are also going to be design elements. Those design elements are something like this. So the way that you designate this for the accessibility section of D7 in the CVC OEI rubric is to click Edit. And then you click on your image. And then you click on the Embed Image icon up here. And you'll notice there's a section that says Alternative Text. That alternative text is what you want to fill in for something that's a banner. You want to make sure that if anything has a navigational purpose, you're making sure your students can have that access that information via a screen reader if they needed to. This alternative text gives them that access. So right here you see that it says Year 2, Module 4, Research. I click Update and it matches now in the alternative text what the image is saying. Now some of these images, as I mentioned, are just for decoration. So something like this, students don't need to know it. It's a nice design element, but it's not going to necessarily help them navigate the page. So you go right over here into Embed Image, and you can click Decorative Image. And then you click Update. Now, one other section that you might run into when you're using images, and this is connected to D3, links in the CVC OEI rubric, is that you might be using images as links, and I do that a lot. I find that students often want to click on the image, so if I just have the URL connected to the image, then they can click on that and go right to where it says they want to go. So in D3, links are identified with meaningful and unique text in place of displaying the URL. So you don't want to display URLs anymore. Screen readers are already going to say that that's a URL. So what you want to do instead is to have an image right here. And if you're using an image, you still have to follow the guidelines of D7 for images, which is making sure you have alternative text. So first you would click on this particular image. You would make sure you have that alternative text that says De Anza College Library logo. But then the cool thing here with the links is that you could link to a URL. And so right there, if you notice that I have this already set up to go to the De Anza library. So if a student were to click on that, it'll take them to the library, and if the student was accessing this page with a screen reader, they would be able to know that this was an image as a logo, and they would also know that it was a URL because it would be connected to that as well. So when you're using images, you just want to think about how you're using them so that you can make sure that you're designating whether or not it is something that's going to need alternative text, whether or not it's something that's going to be able to click decorative image, or whether or not you're going to be linking to it with a URL. Whatever you're going to be doing, you just want to think mindfully about how it's being done on the page and make sure that you are being accessible for all of your students. Thank you so much for watching this video and have a great day.